Let's go live.
Expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman and Robert Webb.
Hey, what's happening? Welcome to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you want to hang out with me. I got all my little gadgets set up here. We are streaming on YouTube. So you can go out to youtube.com. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and post the new stream for YouTube that should be up here in just a moment. It's already up. Let's see if I can find it. So I'll get that posted for you here in a little bit. So y'all stick and stay for that. Let's see here. That's weird. It's not showing. Well, wait a minute. Maybe this is it right here. What is today, the 24th? Yeah, today is the 24th. Wow. Man, this month has flown by, hasn't it? Well, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I'm gonna do a topic today that I don't have the answer to, but it's one of those where we will be looking for the answer. So we'll talk about that today. We'll certainly continue to follow these cop shootings that are going on across the country. They continue to happen. Police continue to get off. I'm beginning to wonder, at what point are we fighting a losing battle, or are we even in the battle? We'll talk about that today. And of course, Little Rock is getting a new gun manufacturer who promises 500 new jobs in Little Rock. It's kind of ironic that it's a gun manufacturer, right? I mean, do y'all not catch the irony of that? I certainly do. So we'll talk about that today as well. We've also got a special guest that's coming up. We talk a lot about one of the ways that we can solve our problem in the black community is entrepreneurship. And there's a big entrepreneurial conference coming to Little Rock this weekend, led by Kemp Satchel. And we'll talk to him in a few minutes, get an idea of what's happening, how you can get involved Folks, if you're tired of your job, if you're ready to move on, if you're ready to make some residual income, let me just tell you like this. Take it from someone who, I'm like the Jamaicans. I got 15 jobs. Well, I actually don't have that many, but I have multiple streams of income. Okay? And that's really, unless you are a billionaire, and I would argue that if you could look at a billionaire's portfolio, he or she would probably have multiple streams of income. So we're going to talk to Kim Satchel here in a little bit and get some ideas on how you can pick up one other stream. And it's really about the travel business. So if you would like to travel and make money, this would be a good opportunity for you. So we'll talk to him here in just a moment. But you all know, before we can do anything on Black Focus Radio, we got to do Black Facts.
Dynamic Black Facts. Our culture, our history, our people.
You know, it dawned on me when I began talking about reparations on a regular basis that every one of our Black Facts has to do with reparations. Because if these things did not happen, if slavery never happened, then we wouldn't be talking about reparations today. And all of these things that emanated from slavery is part of the argument for reparations. So I was talking to a young brother the other day, and he did not, or many people believe that there were no slave rebellions. I talked about this yesterday a little bit. But there were plenty of them, and part of the reason you did not hear about them is because the slave owners wanted to make sure that they kept it quiet so that there would not be others, because slave owners, whites were outnumbered almost, I want to say 3-1, if I remember my numbers correctly, as it relates to slaves to white people. And the only way that I always ask the question, how is it that you could be the minority, yet you can control the majority? In other words, you have to figure out a way to do that. And it was mental, let me say that again, it was mental destruction. So before I read this Black Fact, and I'm going to read it after I finish, to control the people, you must first control what they think about themselves and how they regard their history and culture. Once they've been made ashamed of themselves and the culture, you no longer need chains to hold them. That's by the great Dr. John Henrik Clarke. So how was it that whites were able to hold slaves even though the whites were in the minority and many of them didn't die? It's mental, folks. You hear me talk all the time about mental slavery and menticide. So this story today is about a slave rebellion. It's called the Stono Rebellion, the largest slave revolt in America, led by slaves from Congo in 1739. By the 1700s, slavery had become a lucrative business with over 500,000 slaves spread across America. Despite not having privileges which gave them opportunities to utilize their spare time well into the 1720s, slaves often met to educate themselves, discuss social issues, and connect with others in neighboring plantations and colonies. Slave communities had grown, and the meetings were a way to keep unity among each other and to build an active community that could one day fight against slavery. Many of these meetings were held in secret and evoked slave rebellions across America. The biggest slave rebellion in the South of America took place in the British colony of South Carolina. The slaves had met several times previously to find a way to gain their freedom after hearing that Spanish Florida was allowing slaves to go free and offering them land. On Sunday, September 9, 1739, the slaves met close to the Stono River to plan their secret trip to Spanish Florida, where they would be free people at last. Jimmy, an elite slave who had gained some form of education, instigated a rebellion in which the members of the meeting quickly agreed to. Jimmy led a group of 20 slaves back to South Carolina, chanting for freedom and holding a banner that read "Liberty." The banner was made from stitching cloth that they wore together. As the 20 slaves marched southward and chanted, they managed to recruit other willing slaves and marched until reaching Stono Bridge, where they attacked Hutchison's store. The slaves killed 2 white storekeepers and grabbed all kinds of weapons that they could use, including guns and gunpowder. Reaching a little over 60 in number, the slaves attacked many plantations, killing slave owners and setting other slaves free. Many slaves started to make their way towards Spanish Florida, while a group of the rebels continued their killing. The Stono rebels managed to kill close to 30 white slave owners and burned 6 plantations. But by the time they had finished their 6th conquest, news had traveled around about the attacks. Lieutenant Governor William Bull of South Carolina sent word around to the slaveholders who went into hiding, giving slaves the opportunity to run away. After the news had gone around, the governor rallied white militants to meet the rebels who had started to make their way to Spanish Florida. The white militants and rebels engaged in a severe battle. The total number of deaths were close to 30 whites and 60 rebels. After the capture of the rebels, other slaves who managed to escape were captured. The governor saw to the execution of the surviving rebels and slaves whose masters had been killed or sold off to other plantations. After the Stono Rebellion, many more rebellions occurred throughout the South. The rapid killing of slave owners led to the South Carolina legislature passing the Negro Act of 1740. The act prohibited slaves from meeting, being educated, and growing their own food. It also prevented them from earning money and engaging in substantial trade. The act also controlled the number of slaves each slave master had to avoid any attack of any kind. The ratio was 1 to 10. Jimmy and the slaves who took part in the Stono Rebellion have been identified as slaves mainly from the ancient Congo Empire. The slaves found in South Carolina spoke Portuguese. History has helped identify that slaves in South Carolina were primarily brought in from Central Africa, and specifically from the Kingdom of Congo, where the royals and Portuguese had a slave trade agreement. And ladies and gentlemen, that's your black fact of the day. Hey, Blackberry. So I wanted to tell you all about that because there was a line in there that said this, okay? After the Stono Rebellion, many more rebellions occurred throughout the South. So see, what they've taught you is that slaves were happy. They didn't rebel. Yeah, they did rebel. They rebelled often. They killed their slave owners often. The fact of the matter is that much of that was erased from history. It was erased even in that time because they didn't publish it in the papers. They didn't talk about it. They talked among themselves, but they certainly made sure that they didn't talk among slaves because they didn't want to incite other slaves to rebel. And that's a fact. That's a fact, Jack. So rebellions did occur, and again, more evidence that reparations are a must. Don't allow these politicians who are running around talking about reparations get off the hook and say, oh, well, we were just talking about it. No, we need reparations. 855-525-5683 is the number. We're going to go out and take a quick break. When we return, we're going to get our financial guest online, Kim Satchel, get an idea of what's it all about. How do we make more money? How do we become financially literate? Because that's the key in saving our community. So we'll take a quick break. You're listening to Black Focus Radio on joynetradio.com.
Can I talk to you for a moment? How many people have come up to you and said, hey, I didn't know you had a business? Yeah, that can happen when you don't advertise. I have.
Okay. Trying to get our guest on here. Hi, Kemp. This is David Coleman from Black Focus Radio. You guys are coming to Little Rock this weekend. I'm calling you for your interview. If you will give me a call back at 855-525-5683. Look forward to talking to you. Bye-bye.
Understand that the funeral is a celebration of life and legacy, so the entire staff takes great pride in the caring, personal, and professional services they provide. Cremations, funeral planning, burial policy, life insurance, notary, and monument sales are just a few of the services they offer. Flexible packages are available as well. Mitchell Funeral Home appreciates the trust and confidence placed in them and will continue to enhance their services so as to serve you better. Call now. Get connected. 870-246-2611. That's 870-246-2611. Call, click, or come by. MitchellFuneralServices.com. Don't wait till we're needed. Call us now. Let's walk through this together. 870-246-2611. It's quality you can appreciate and service you can depend on at Mitchell Funeral Home.
Hey, lock this number in. 501-406-7134. That's 501-406-7134. That will get you some fabulous chicken wings delivered right to your door. I'm talking great American chicken wings with all of the flavors, like spicy Cajun, honey hot, garlic hot, atomic hot, ranch hot, hot buffalo, chipotle, chili, all American, spicy lemon pepper, just to name a few. Oh, you want me to keep going? Yeah, country fried, mild barbecue, honey mustard, taco deal. Oh, I'm telling you, it's going down. Just call the number 501-406-7134. That's 501-406-7134. It's the Great American Wings, and I'm telling you, they are delicious and delivered right to your door. Call that number and get in touch today. As a matter of fact, you can drop by. We're located at 6323 Colonel Glenn Road in Little Rock. That's Great American Wings.
Hi, this is Alvin from Habibi's 4317 East Broadway in North Little Rock. We still have the green top at your very next stop. The same great service, but more on it. Give us a call at 501-663-1553 or 664-2992. 2, or call our toll-free number 1-877-BB1. Diapers, pull-ups, hospital beds, wheelchairs, simple fit, diabetes.
All right, welcome back to the show. Dave Coleman in the house, 855-525-5683. Expecting a call from Kim Satchel here any moment. Hopefully he'll give us a call, but the show must go on. When he calls, we'll drop him in as quick as we can because we want to make sure that people understand that, look, if you're going to be successful, you got to have multiple streams of income. You can't be going and working on this job, working, 9 to 5. It's just not going to work for you. It just isn't if you want to be successful. All right. So we'll talk to Kim Satchel here in just a moment going forward. A couple of things I want to talk about today. Okay. Couple of things I want to talk about today. And I'm sure many of you all read the feed. The tease, as I like to call it. And there were a couple of things that I put on here. There's Little Rock is getting a new gun manufacturer who promises to bring 500 plus jobs to the area. Also, can someone tell me, and this is a legitimate question. If you all are out there, can you all tell me if the Arkansas Razorbacks have black vendors? Now, many of y'all may not know what that means. So when I grew up here in Little Rock, when I was a Boy Scout, we used to go over to the War Memorial Stadium, and we would sell hot dogs at every Razorback game. And, back then they were playing, 3, 4 of them here every year. Okay? So we would sell hot dogs over there for our Troop 450. Shout out to Troop 450. And that's how we made a lot of our money, and that helped us to be one of the most successful black Boy Scout troops in the state. In fact, we were the largest from what we understood. So we were vendors. And I know many of you all don't live in, there is an arena here, but places like Nashville and Dallas and any city that has a professional franchise, they will open it up for people to become vendors. Okay? A good friend of mine who owned the now defunct Kajiji's Coffee House in Nashville was a coffee vendor at the Tennessee Titans Stadium, which is Nissan Stadium. So those positions are very lucrative. So you think about it from this perspective. Let's say, how many games do the Razorbacks play in football? They play 12, right? Typically there will be 6 to 7 of them at home. So whomever selling their beer, whomever selling their soda pop, their popcorn, their cookies, there might be a Boy Scout troop or Girl Scout troop, whatever the case may be. There also might be private vendors. In other words, people who have business licenses to sell food, to come in and sell that product. Okay? So the question I have is, are there any black vendors? And if there aren't any black vendors, why not? Now you say, Dave, why is that a big deal? Well, let me tell you why it's a big deal. If you went and looked at the Arkansas football team right now, if you looked at the Arkansas basketball team right now, if you looked at and I'm just going to stick with the two teams that make the money. That's football and basketball. I could say track. I know y'all want to try to say baseball, and claim y'all are so in love with baseball here in Arkansas. But the fact of the matter is, the baseball does not turn the turnstiles to the dollar amount that football and basketball does. Okay? Just doesn't do it. So the question is, when you look at the football team and the basketball team, you certainly look at the basketball team. The basketball team at one point was 90% black. I think they had 2 white guys on that team. Okay? The football team is, in keeping with the same numbers that they are around the country, the average is about 65 to 70% black. but you don't have any black vendors? Now, don't tell me that no black businesses they haven't applied. That's why you don't have any. I know that's a lie. I know for a fact that there is a black vendor right now who wants to be